If the last month has taught us anything, it's that the leadership of the Democratic Party is decidedly out of touch, out of ideas, and completely out of its depth. Thankfully for Democrats, the rest of the party is no longer waiting for leadership. Senator Chris Van Hollen has just become the latest Democrat to show the country how to fight back against Trump. I'm going to show footage of Van Hollen's dramatic display of how to exert political pressure when you don't have a lot of political power. Van Hollen flew to El Salvador to try and obtain the release of Maryland resident Kilmar Abrego Garcia from the notorious CICOP prison, where he is being held thanks to Trump's illegal and unconstitutional deportation of Latin American gang members. Van Hollen didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of obtaining Garcia's release, but he still went. Fox News and Trump's team of bubble-headed Barbies are going to accuse him of just playing a political stunt. But still, he flew to El Salvador. Because there's two things that Van Hollen understands. First, it's his job as senator to fight for the people of his state, even when they are not his constituents. But the second thing Van Hollen understands is that the walls are closing in on Trump and his shredding of the Constitution. Not only are the courts ruling against him at every turn, but so are his own supporters. Earlier today, I showed this shocking footage of Trump supporters turning on Senator Chuck Grassley when he tried floating the Trump talking point about why Garcia can't be set free. Those are Trumpers from Iowa, folks, and this is not isolated. Everywhere you turn, people are rallying to free Garcia. Bernie Sanders is advocating for Garcia. Chris Murphy of Connecticut is advocating for him, and everyday people are supporting Garcia's release. Alex Cole posted this on social media. The funny thing is, if Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia was at the Capitol trying to overthrow the government on January 6th, Trump would have given him a full pardon. Van Hollen knows he is riding a tsunami of public support, and so he's mobilizing it to free Garcia, itself a move that will rein in the Trump regime. He posted every leg of his journey, from the airport.
We are going to keep fighting because this is a miscarriage of justice. The Supreme Court has ruled 9-0, that he was illegally taken out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. And this is about due process. This is about rule of law. What bullies do is they begin by picking on the most vulnerable. But if we get rid of the rule of law and due process in the United States, it's a short road from there to tyranny.
To touching down in San Salvador.
As I've said before, the goal of my visit is to talk to people here about the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I told his wife and his family I would do everything possible to bring him home.
And finally, holding a press conference afterwards in which he torches Trump, humiliates Pam Bondi, and embarrasses the government of El Salvador. Watch this.
President Trump and the Trump administration, you would think that the U.S. courts have found that Mr. Abrego Garcia is part of MS-13, but in fact, they have not found that. In fact, recently, a U.S. federal court judge said that the Trump administration did not have evidence to support the claim that he had ever been part of MS-13. In fact, Mr. Abrego Garcia is legally in the United States. In fact, an immigration judge found years ago that it would put his life in danger if he was returned to El Salvador. So I want to emphasize that President Trump and our Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Vice President of the United States are lying when they say that Abrego Garcia has been charged with a crime or is part of MS-13. That is a lie.
Boom. That's a punch to the face for Trump, J.D. Vance, and the Trump team. And here's what's so brilliant about it. Van Hollen can do the same denunciations anywhere, including the Senate floor when it's in session. But by doing it here, Van Hollen is garnering an international press conference that is going to carry what he is saying across the Spanish-speaking world, not to mention the globe itself. So the whole world just saw him stand up to the orange bully and call him out for the pathetic liar that he is. So having embarrassed Trump, next Van Hollen went on to embarrass El Salvador, particularly the vice president. Let's watch.
And I pointed out that neither the government of El Salvador nor the Trump administration has presented evidence to support the claim that he's committed any kind of criminal acts. And so why not release Abrego Garcia today? And he said what President Bukele said the other day, which that El Salvador can't smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. And I said, I'm not asking him to smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. I'm simply asking him to open the door of CICOT and let this innocent man walk out. And I pointed out that the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, has said that the United States would send a plane to El Salvador to pick him up.
I'm sure you caught that burn on Pam Bondi. Wait, Pam, how are you offering a plane ride one day and claiming he's guilty on another day? Could it be that you're lying? But here's where Van Hollen goes after Democratic leadership. Watch this.
And I won't stop trying, and I can assure the president, the vice president, that I may be the first United States senator to visit El Salvador on this issue, but there will be more, and there will be more members of Congress coming.
And that is just brilliant. He didn't criticize leadership, but he certainly just boxed them in a corner. Now, if they don't make a trip to El Salvador, it becomes further evidence that they are not fighting Trump hard enough. Nothing could make it clearer that Schumer has to step up or step aside. And here's hoping he'll step aside. Van Hollen may not have obtained Garcia's release today, but he certainly put the ball closer to the goal line. Between the courts and increasing public opinion going against Trump and his policies, it's becoming clear to Team Trump that this is a losing battle and a self-inflicted wound. All their spin is not working. That's what the people in Iowa are making crystal clear. I mean, in some ways, you do have to hand it to Trump. He's managed to make white heartland Trump voters care about brown people. But unless he wants this administration to die from 1,000 paper cuts, the best thing they can do now is get Garcia back and claim victory for doing it. That's a classic Trump move anyways, and one they should take before his people start going to jail for contempt. Because believe me, Trump, no one is going to rally when a judge throws Pam Bondi in jail. If anything, they'll be dancing in the streets. I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.